And certainly the law of the land right now is that busing is permissible, that a district court can order busing. And what the president has got to do is to look into the various pending actions and determine where he thinks that that action goes beyond the Supreme Court decision in the Swan case, and then try to do something about it in the court. So I don't know that there's any way you can go back to all places where there is busing now and repeal it, because it's under a court order that's in effect, or in many cases where the school board has agreed to do it on its own volition.
Governor Wallace's 2:30 news conference, scheduled for here in the Texas House of Representatives, actually started about 2:45. By the time he entered the House, which was packed with an estimated 800 people, he was 15 minutes late getting before TV cameras and photographers. He was coming fresh off an impetus gained in the Florida primary election, and he wasn't hurt any by President Nixon's speech of last night. In fact, he talked during his news conference about the issue of busing and about the president's speech.
In the matter of busing, for instance, all 6 United States Senators, Mr. Harkey, Mr. Humphrey, Mr. Jackson, Mr. McCarthy, Mr. McGovern, and Mr. Muskie, voted to bus to achieve racial balance in the Congress, or announced in favor of it. Then when they got to Florida, they found that when they got down into Florida, they found that the people in this 9th most populous state did not like the fact that they had voted in such manner. So 2 or 3 began to wishy-washy about the matter, and one went back and introduced an anti-busing amendment. And I made the statement in Florida that if I run well in Florida, Mr. Nixon will make a statement about busing before he goes to China. And if we win the primary, he'll make one after. And you know, when he went to China, I've been told, whether this is true or not, that he had moused his tongue and spent about half that time talking about busing in the United States. And Mao Zedong told him, you know, here in China, when we take a notion to bus, we don't ask anybody, we just bus. The president could have well answered him back and said, when we take a notion to bus, we do the same thing, and we don't ask anybody either but a few federal judges. And that.
Governor Wallace said busing is the straw that broke the camel's back, and the people here in the Texas House of Representatives loved it. From the House, he went downtown in Austin, where he held an organizational meeting. It's rumored that the American Party in Texas is finished. Now Mr. Wallace is starting another party and running in the Democratic primary. And of course, one of his purposes here is to plead for his supporters to vote for him in precinct primaries on May the 6th. Phil Reynolds, Channel 8 News on the Move, in the House of the Representatives in Austin.
$212 billion.
Well, of course, he takes the position that we take in our appeals, our case of appeals in the New Orleans. We think that we have gone as far as the law requires that we go. That's the Supreme Court decision interpretation I'm speaking of. We think we have gone as far as the courts require, and we don't think we should go any farther. That is our position. And, of course, this is the question that the Fifth Court of Appeals is trying to decide.
Now, this appeal case, it would require more busing, wouldn't it?
The NAACP in New York, which is the group that has been suing us, is the group that says that we should do this in all elementary schools, and we have taken the position that only those that were de jure, thus by law, were segregated in the old days, are the only ones that we had to integrate, so to speak, and that's what we have done. We think we have complied with the law, and we don't think we should go any farther. I don't think it's the best interest of children, or good education, or expense, or use of money to go any farther than we're now going.
It sounds like a broken record to say that Dallas Community Action has another problem, but it does. This time, the Department of Labor has threatened to take away a $200,000 new careers program unless the agency comes up with some more sound financial management of the project. New Careers is designed to give training to low-income persons in paraprofessional fields. Actually, the DCA could lose sponsorship of all 3 labor programs, totaling $2 million. I asked Agency Director Willis Johnson why.
Well, we just received correspondence from the Office of the Labor Department indicating that we still have some inadequacies in our nuclear program. They have indicated very strongly that if these inadequacies are not satisfied, they will seek new sponsors for this program around September 23rd.
What are you going to do about it?
We're going to make an all-out effort to really satisfy all the inadequacies.
Does that include other programs under the labor program?
Yeah, NYC 2 program is also under investigation.
Another money matter adding more brush to DCA fires is the $1,500 expense account handed in by 2 DCA members, Arthur Graves and Romy Lilly. A big chunk of their expenses came under lost wages for attending board meetings. But as Johnson put it, why did they lose wages by attending night meetings?
If a board member had to attend a meeting where they should or would have normally been working, then we, as an agency, if we have monies in a budget, are allowed to pay up to $15 for the loss of wages for that board member.
Do you think that guideline is being abused?
I think it's questionable.
And if these questions haven't produced enough headaches, Johnson has also come under fire for approving 2 expense accounts for board members to attend that black political convention last week in Gary, Indiana. I asked Board Chairman George Zimmerman if he approves of spending DCA funds for what appears to be political purposes.
It's my opinion at this time, after looking into that meeting, which was held in Gary, Indiana, that it was a national black political convention to determine the blacks of the country in position related to the 2 predominant political parties. If that, in fact, is the case, and there was no direct objective of that meeting related to any activity of this agency, then the funds will not be allowed, and they will not be paid by this agency.
You know, with all these problems, the picture looks pretty gloomy. But then, when you take a look at 600 children like these that the Poverty Agency is helping, the picture brightens considerably. Martha McIntyre, Channel 8 News on the Move.
I've been to spring training now. This is my 4th time, and I think that this year I really feel that if I perform well, that there is an opportunity to make the team, whereas in the past I've felt that no matter how well I did in spring training, I wouldn't have much of a chance to make the team anyway. But this year I think you're right, there is a pretty good chance to make the team.
Has that been an opinion that's been spoken to you, or just something that you've sensed by the attitude of people around here?
Just something I've sensed over the attitude of the people, my contracts that were sent over the winter, and just things that a ball player can tell, just by the way that he's treated during spring training.
Do you try and go at a very heavy pace in the early part of spring training, or do you pace yourself to get ready for the regular season opener?
I've done it different ways. One year I got in real good shape to come down here and ended up getting stale during spring training, and last year I came down not in shape, and it took a while, and this year I kind of did it in between. I came down in fairly good shape, and be in good shape within the next couple of weeks, probably.
You're going to find that groove one way or the other, huh?
I've kind of find the happy medium, I guess.
This year I've been looking forward to for a long time. It's the Olympic year, and it's also the year I think we're going to do the best at the collegiates for SMU.
As a swimmer, how do you compare with your '68 form?
I think it's coming back, I really do, and I'm really excited about this year, I really am.
What is the one event you're looking forward to most at the NCAAs?
There isn't one event I'm looking forward to more than the others. I'm swimming both backstrokes, the individual medley, and I'm swimming on probably 2 relays, maybe just one. But I'm really looking forward to all of them. I've been working real hard on the individual medley this year, but right now my backstroke's coming into form, and I'm really excited about swimming that too.
The following, yes. I was a pretty good favorite in the Fort Worth tournaments, and I just don't feel like I've been accepted that well in Dallas or anywhere as far as that goes. Of course, they have bigger attendance and Golden Gloves, and I don't know, to hear all them people cheer for you, and you think about all the sweat and the hard work that you've gone through, and when I hear the crowd cheer for us, I say, well, that was worth it. And now it's, I don't know, it's a little bit different. But right now I'm just proving to myself that I can do it, and then later I'll prove to the people that I'm a good fighter. So.
Tommy, you've got to be one of the few guys
in the United States, I guess, who has his wife in his corner as a second. Pam, what is it, moral support, or do you actually take that much of an involvement in boxing?
No, I'm a regular second. I work with him, and I work his corner, and I try to pick up things that he does wrong.
Do you advise him, actually?
Yeah, we have professionals in the corner, of course, and I know Tommy's, the way he fights, the style, and if they don't catch something, well then, if I can catch it, I'll tell him. I'll tell him what he's doing wrong and everything.
Tommy, who do you listen to, your wife or your...
Well, I kind of listen to all of them. I even listen to the crowd sometimes. The crowd can be helpful sometimes too. Watch his right hand, or a lot of times they yell for the other guy, so I try to watch and see what they're going to throw.
Did Pam get interested in boxing through you, or were you interested in it first?
No, it was strictly through him. In fact, when we first met, somebody told me that he was a boxer, and I didn't believe it. And then he asked me out to the boxing matches, and we went, to the Golden Gloves, and he said, I'll be back, later, I'm going to go get dressed. And I thought, I must have heard him wrong.
I'll give you a toast to St. Patrick's Day in Irish. Slánta Guselagut, Ben o Daviagut, Talab Gankis o Blin Shomok, August Bosnian. Now to translate that into English, it's health and long life to you. Here's a woman to your liking. May you live without taxes.
What's it like to live today in the Republic of Ireland?
Unfortunately, you go over there today and you'll find rock and roll prevalent, which is ridiculous, of course, because there's got some beautiful music there, but in the average pub or cabaret or whatever you might want to go in, you'll find country music and rock and roll. That's the predominant music of the youth of today in Ireland. And various other factors. Life is going on as usual. Naturally, I think they have a tendency, of course there's not too many diversions, but drink is a factor. Well, I like to drink myself very, very much, but some of the drinks that they're drinking over there today are a little bit wild to me. Brandy and something else is a big drink today, like we would drink a beer. And that, first of all, it shows two things. The economic factor, because brandy costs quite a lot. So economically, I would say that the average man is getting along pretty good. He's got money in his pocket. He's got a good food, very good food. Now, I don't know whether you know it today, but under the Irish government system, say you pick up an egg at a hotel, on the bottom of your egg will be the time, the date of it when it was laid, so that you know that you're going to get a fresh egg for your breakfast in the morning in a hotel.
Truth seems to be a great factor in Irish life.
Well, it has to be in certain areas. Of course, they lie like everybody else. They're human. And naturally, if it suits the purpose, everybody will lie up to a certain degree. So we can't say they're all saints and scholars.
Joe Carr really does speak Gaelic. An Irishman born and bred, Joe has lived in the United States now for most of his life, but at one time in his youth he was familiar with the original Irish Republican Army. Now Joe lives in Dallas, but for St. Patrick's Day he talked with me about things Irish, such as how life is today.
Air power will play a major role in the exercise, and helicopters like these will have an important part when the war games begin later next week. Altogether, several hundred aircraft are involved, including helicopters, conventional airplanes, and high-performance jets. In fact, so many aircraft are involved that airspace will be restricted to civilian aircraft in an area of more than 7,000 square miles, an area which will be utilized by the military aircraft during the height of the exercise. Airspace will be restricted from March the 23rd until March the 28th in an area bounded by Oakland, Eden, Bertram, Belton, and Walnut Springs, a region which generally stretches from San Angelo on the west to the Waco Temple area on the east. More than 23,000 men are scheduled to participate in this exercise, the first of its kind since 1965. And the reason such a large-scale military exercise can be scheduled now is that the men and the equipment are available due to the withdrawal of U.S. forces from Vietnam. Jack Hill, Channel 8 News on the Move.
I favor an interim speaker for a number of reasons. Because there is going to be a large turnover in the next session of the legislature, and for the reason that there are a number of candidates that are aspiring to be speaker who will not have a chance to meet everybody and not have a chance to work with those candidates that will be serving in the next legislature, new members.
Who would you support as interim speaker?
I could support DeWitt Hale. I've known him for many, many years. He's qualified. He's fair.
I support the election of a permanent speaker simply because of the problems we're going to face, both in financing the primary as well as new appropriations and possible taxes for them. You can maybe not listen quite so strongly to and favor actions of someone whom you know is not going to be in that position in another session. Although I'm not pledged to anybody at this point, unless the picture changes, if we do face electing a speaker, which I think we will, I would favor Rayford Price.
Citizens of Arlington turned out in droves this morning for the grand opening of the city's newest amusement attraction. Seven Seas was officially welcomed into operation with a gala parade through downtown Arlington and an opening address by Arlington Mayor Tommy Vandergriff. The mayor spoke with deep pride and affection for the citizens of Arlington.
It's been some 3 years since we decided the theme of that park should incorporate something foreign to this section of ours, and that, of course, would be sea life, the oceans of the world.
The $9 million Sea Life Park is expecting 1.5 million customers in their first year of operation. Today's crowd was expected to exceed 10,000. The park exhibits attractive displays from the 7 seas of the world. Holding special interest are the fish and sea animals which can be viewed from attractive amphitheaters. Other shows include Japanese entertainment in a huge pagoda and an iceberg ride through the Arctic. The park will be open each weekend through June 3rd, then open daily until Labor Day. This is Bob Schaus for Channel 8 News on the Move.
I think they're neglecting stories for shock. I don't like that as much.
Are you talking about shock with violence or sex or what?
Yes, rather than stories. So, but that'll soon wear out. I think they'll have to start making real stories, good human being stories again, and about people rather than about the shock value.
Mr. Warhol, you sort of represent a sign of the time, so to speak, in movies. Do you think you're going to go out of style, your type of movies?
We're out of style already.
You're out of style. Why is that?
Well, because things happen so quickly.
What would you say is in style now?
Or anything that's a hit.
I think that now that the trial is over, that we can go ahead and proceed with financing the primaries. I feel like he will call the session, only submit the one subject for the financing of the primaries, so that we will be able to meet and pass that one bill.
How long do you think that would take?
We could do it in 3 days to a week at the most would all be necessary. It would be there would not be a tax bill necessary. Now, if he opens the subject up to general appropriations, obviously we're going to have a tax bill of some magnitude.
General Manager.
Is your main concern for the Mexican-American community, or is it Dallas and the state, or what?
No, sir, it is for, in my district, we have 4 distinct ethnic groups, the Anglo, the Black, the Mexican-American, and the American Indian, and those are the people that I will try to represent to the best of my ability. Another thing, let me add that I am not running as a factional candidate at all. I am running to represent all people for the district, the county, and the state of Texas.
Are you militant?
I don't know. A lot of people have considered me militant. They've considered me an agitator or what have you. Even I've often been labeled controversial, but then that's quite an honor because Jesus Christ was controversial. He was labeled controversial, and that's quite an honor to be placed in his parallel.